What's going on, Ravens flock? Welcome back to the Flock Files. I'm your host, Corey, the home of Ravens news, breakdowns, and bold opinions. If you're just tired of the boring Ravens takes and you want real, first-hand fan opinions, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Start off today with talking about the coaching hires over the last week or so in the AFC North. You got the Browns still searching, which that's kind of expected. I don't think anyone really wants to go there, knowing the history, and then seeing someone like Kevin Stefanski, who won Coach of the Year twice with them, and had some good years and turnaround, but still couldn't get it fully turned around. It kind of starts with the people upstairs, and not necessarily the coach, even though the owners will continuously blame the coach and keep cycling through coaches without looking themselves in the mirror. So the Browns, who knows where they're going to be? Probably still at the bottom of the division per usual. And then we look at the Bengals. They still have Zach Taylor there, the only coach that stayed around after this season. Many thought that maybe he should be let go as well, but with Joe Burrow constantly being injured and the team's defense just not being good and knowing that it wasn't going to be good going into the season, I feel like they'll keep him around for this final year. And the same thing trends from what it has been the last couple of years, then I think after this season they'll look to let him go, but there's some continuity there. And I think they'll still be a really solid team. Obviously with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they always will give you a chance, build a little bit up on that defense, and you just never know what you're going to get. And then we have the Ravens. Obviously we've talked about many times. People are talking about it all over Twitter and, all of Ravens community. We have Jesse Minter. I think it's a great hire. Some people are torn. They thought that we were going to go offensive with Clint Kubiak. They think that having someone like Lamar Jackson can only succeed with an offensive-minded head coach, but I don't think they understand that even though Jesse Minter is a defensive-first coach, having him on the team now and as our head coach and as our leader, the door opens up so much for the offense. Being able to get off the field on third downs, being able to intercept the ball, being able to rush the opposing quarterback and sack them and put them in unfortunate situations, giving our offense more chances with the ball. So having a defensive-minded coach and not an offensive-minded coach doesn't hurt Lamar Jackson in any way, in my opinion, and only continues to help him just as much as a crazy offensive-minded coach would have done, just in a different way. And, I think just from hearing other players like Derwin James, Eric Weddle, who obviously isn't playing anymore but still knows ball and knows Minter and was a part of, the Ravens and the Chargers organization, and just players all over the place, they're high praise for Jesse Minter as a leader and just constantly stating that players want to play for him. I think that's going to be huge this year. I've said it so many times, and I'll continue to say it again. I don't think players had that type of connection with John Harbaugh. I don't think there was a we want to play for this coach type of thing. It was more of a, hey, we're going to go out there and play football and do what we do. But there was just no real connection there between coach and player. It was very dull, especially the last couple of years. And that's really what needs to change. In my opinion, having a coach that you want to play for and players that you want to coach and having that connection is almost stronger and more important than having a super smart coach with the X's and O's. I think connection comes into it so much, heart comes into it so much, determination to play for one another comes into it so much more than people want to give credit for. And then lastly, we got the Steelers hiring Mike McCarthy. Oh boy. As a Ravens fan, I love this. I think that's a terrible hire. I think it's a complete lateral move going from Tomlin to McCarthy. I don't see any progress or any movement forward from this hire. I don't understand it at all. You're getting an old school coach that, yeah, he won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers back in 2010, 2011, but that was so long ago. He's done so many other jobs and had so many other coaching opportunities where he's done absolutely nothing. It's kind of a John Harbaugh situation where, I will continue to stand my ground that I don't think John Harbaugh is a great coach. I think he's a good coach, but these grading scales of John Harbaugh is so great. It's just crazy to me, man. 18 years, one Super Bowl appearance with the teams he had. That's embarrassing. And the same goes for Mike McCarthy. I just don't see it. I don't understand the move at all. But as a Ravens fan, I'm happy. I think this completely puts their team in a bigger hole than they were if they would have just kept Mike Tomlin around. So makes me happy, and I'm not going to be mad at the team making, poor decisions. I think with all the coaching hires that have happened so far, obviously, like I said, we don't know the Browns, but honestly, I'm not worried about them. They don't even know who their quarterback is, and Sanders, obviously, people are going to think I'm a hater because anyone who says he's not the future is a hater because you just have to like him. I think he's okay, but I do not think he's the future. I don't think he has any potential to play in this league long term. So they have a lot of questions there besides just the head coach, and I'm not afraid of them. But outside of that, I think the Ravens, with their new head coach hire, honestly finished on top of the division. I think the division, again, next year will be ours to lose, and it's going to be really exciting to watch going forward. And with the Jesse Minter hire, bringing up another topic, Dre'Mont Jones, I see a lot of people saying that we should get rid of him, that he's one of the players that we don't need to bring back. I disagree. I think he played with so much heart last year for the time that he was on the Ravens. I think he has a motor. He's versatile. He can play D-tackle. He can play off the edge. I think with a defensive-minded head coach and a coach that schemes up defenses really nicely, I think bringing Dre'Mont Green back as a veteran presence is huge. I would actually rather bring Dre'Mont Jones. I probably just said Dre'Mont Green like an idiot, but Dre'Mont Jones, I'd rather bring him back than bring Kyle Van Noy back, honestly. I love Kyle Van Noy, but if we had to choose one or the other, I would rather bring Dre'Mont back at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Ravens decide to do with him, but I would love to see him in this scheme of a defense with Jesse Minter at head coach and really unleash him and see what he can do for us this next year. I think he can be an absolute wrecking ball. You saw what Minter did when Odafe Owe went to the Chargers. He did nothing with the Ravens. Honestly, did nothing for 3 years. People say he had a double-digit sack season last year, but they were garbage time sacks, a lot of them. None of them were in, I shouldn't say none of them, but a lot of them weren't in game-changing moments. They were just kind of there. They weren't flashy. They weren't when we needed them. He just got them. So doing nothing with the Ravens, and then obviously doing absolutely nothing in the beginning of this year, trade him to Chargers, and he's going off. I mean, he didn't have like a Hall of Fame season or anything like that, but right away, I think his first week with the Chargers, he had like 1 or 2 sacks. So, I think Jesse Minter can do a lot for Dre'Mont, along with a lot of other guys. Obviously, the young guys, Mike Green, and, players like that. I think we're going to get a lot more out of people, and I think Dre'Mont is someone we really need to focus on bringing back. Switching it up a little bit anymore, there's been confirmation that the Chargers have done an interview process and finished an interview process with Zach Orr for their defensive coordinator position. I think it's funny. We take their defensive coordinator, who everyone praises on that side, to be our new head coach, and now they're coming for our defensive coordinator, who doesn't have the best reviews in the last couple of years coming out of Baltimore. It's sad because I really do like Zach Orr. I liked him as a player. I like him as a coach. I think he is a coach that players get behind and, like to play for. But last year, he just had such a slow start, and it was his first year. I can understand a little bit, but then this year he had such a slow start, and it's just, I don't want him on the Ravens anymore. And obviously he's not on the Ravens anymore, but I'm glad to see him go. Please take him. Please, Chargers, take him. I know no matter what, he's not going to be on the Ravens roster or coaching staff anymore, and I'm completely okay with that. I'd love to see him succeed down the road as long as it's not against us, but I'm very happy that he's interviewing elsewhere and I'm not going to have to live through the pains of watching his defense anymore because it's been brutal the last 2 years. And then last but not least, I know a lot of talk now is who's going to be the Ravens coordinators, both defensive and offensive. I don't think that defensive coordinator really matters anymore, being that Jesse Minter is a defensive head coach. He's going to scheme up the defense. The defensive coordinator is really just going to be there to install his schemes and, coach the players and have another set of eyes at practice and, another guy to hype up the team. But as far as like a defensive coordinator coming in who needs to scheme things up and we need to really like him, we don't anymore because we have Jesse Minter and he's going to be making all the calls. So defensive coordinator does not, you could literally bring in anyone. I guess that kind of contradicts everything I just said about Zach Orr and wanting him to leave. I just kind of had enough of him over the last 2 years, but if he even were to remain, he wouldn't be calling the defense anyways. He'd just be there for enforcement. And then for the offensive coordinator, I do think that there's a lot of fun names out there, but someone that gets a lot of hate, but also a lot of love, depending on who you talk to, Cliff Kingsbury. And I just go back to, the players wanting to play someone. Aaron Rossini reported that Lamar Jackson and other offensive players, mainly wide receivers, have stood up for the fact that they would like Kingsbury to run their offense next year. So if you have players and your franchise quarterback wanting to play for someone and is outright stating to the front office, hey, bring this guy in, we would really like to play for him, we really like what he does, I don't know what the holdup is. I don't know why you don't just go get him. Unless he's out there, obviously he could still be interviewing for a head coaching job. But if he doesn't get a head coaching job and the Ravens don't bring him in, I kind of think that's just idiotic. Like I said, you have players that have already willingly lashed out and said, supposedly, through Aaron Rossini, confirming that players have said they would love to play for him. And that connection there, again, I don't care what the X's and O's are. Obviously, you have to be good at them. But if you're an average to slightly above average play caller, but your players want to play with you and want to work with you, I think that's better than having a top 5 offensive coordinator with the X's and O's, but the players hate you and don't want to play for you and there's no connection there. So I think it's a no-brainer with Cliff Kingsbury if everything is true about Lamar Jackson and the players wanting him to call their offense, because that's already a huge win. But I also do like names like Nathan Scheelhaus. I think that's a really fun name coming from the McVay tree. Working with Matt Stafford, he would have to come with Lamar Jackson now, who doesn't necessarily have to be a pocket passer and can use his legs a little bit, versus he's coming from Matt Stafford, who is mainly a pocket passer. So he'd have a little bit more freedom with dialing up some new plays and new schemes with a quarterback that can use his legs. But just seeing what he's done with LA and, Matt Stafford, and I think he's a really interesting name to keep your eyes on. And then Joe Brady is another name that's been thrown around a lot. I'm actually not a huge Joe Brady fan. I don't really have anything against him personally. I just have seen what the Bills have done over the last couple years, and it's kind of just like the same thing, it's kind of like the same stages we were stuck in with Harbaugh, and I don't know that him coming in is going to elevate Lamar Jackson and this offense to a Super Bowl winning team. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing we've had, where we're good, we're really good, Obviously this year we weren't really good, but in the regular season, we're really good, and then we get to the playoffs, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just something happens with his offenses and his teams, and the Bills have kind of been in the same hole that the Ravens have been over the last couple of seasons. I don't like the idea of him coming in and being the Ravens' next offensive coordinator. If he does it and he gets the job, I obviously hope that he proves me wrong. I'll always admit when I'm wrong, and I will always hope for the best for all of our coaches. But out of those 3, he's definitely the person that I want the least running our offense next year. I do think the Ravens have a really bright future. I like all the news coming out. I like everything I'm reading on Twitter and throughout all the Ravens community pages. I do think these next couple months are going to be so fun, being able to bring you guys some mock drafts and some just deep dives into some of the players that I think the Ravens should be targeting. There's a lot of great talents on the offensive and defensive lines coming out of this draft, reaching deep into the 3rd and 4th round. So that's going to be really fun. I think obviously that's a huge need that we really need to get after in this draft. I'm excited for the future and what some of these videos are going to hold. We're going to have a lot of fun going forward. If you've enjoyed today's video, please hit the like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for up-to-the-minute Ravens coverage. Please don't hesitate to drop your take in the comments. I love hearing from the flock, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.